Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker and we're looking at teas from around the world, different seasons, different types, and we've got a Taiwanese tea to look at today. There are a lot of, and talking about Taiwanese teas, there are so many small gardens, small estates in Taiwan, and there's an effort, and I believe it's really worthwhile to get to know those small-time producers, those local masters who have been doing this for years. Their families have been doing this for generations even. That's where a lot of skill is. And these people are so dedicated to their craft that they don't necessarily get out and promote themselves. Their teas don't get the recognition that they may always deserve. And so it's always a good idea. I find teas like this one that I'm going to be looking at today to really kind of just show what kind of teas are available out there, and some of the people behind discovering and developing those teas. Now, what you've seen me just do is I've got a smaller than usual gaiwan. This gaiwan is probably about 3.5 ounces compared to my usual 4-ounce sized gaiwan. My water's still been brought to a boil. Let me set that. Well, that's not going to stay, so I'll do it like that. But my water's been brought to a boil, and it's been cooling for just about a minute or so. So this will give me enough that still be plenty warm enough here as I add enough water so that when I place my lid on, it should have a little bit of water sitting out above the lid, just like so, creating a bit of a seal there that will prevent a little bit of reduce the amount of oxidation or color change as this liquor is exposed to the air. Now, talking about this tea, let's go ahead and introduce this a little bit. This is from the TeaMasters, the TeaMasters blog, and what you'll find on TeaMasters is that Stefan actually travels. He's lived in Taiwan rather, for years. He's developed personal connections with a lot of these skilled, small-time growers who have, like I said, may have been doing this for generations, and so that they have the skill, they have the history and the tradition behind them, and so you can get more authentic teas this way. So, TeaMasters, this is a wild concubine oolong. It is from the Fenghuang area. Well, Fenghuang is a village in the Dongding area of Taiwan. This was a winter 2010 harvest, which means it was actually harvested around mid-November. And that is the information that I have. TeaMasters does not necessarily provide a lot of information on the price of the tea because they're more minute-to-minute pricing as far as the volume that you may be purchasing individually or as a company. He factors in the age of the tea, the market demand for the tea, how long that tea has been, how far away it is from harvest, and other factors that can affect that demand. So, go ahead and talk about this tea a little bit, about some of the aspects of the dry leaf, the wet leaf, the liquor here. Get a smell first. I'm going to go ahead and let me breathe on this tea. This is a smaller amount that I've got left in here. I'm getting some of the toasted type notes that are familiar or similar to a lot of your roasted, medium to heavier roasted Dongding style teas. You've got some of that kind of little bit of that English laurel. It's got a bit of a twiggy, shrubby note there. You know, a very not a hard wood, but the dried wood of a shrub type branches there. So there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of sweetness coming out, like a light blossom that may come off of a shrub, like an English laurel. Okay. Those are the dominant notes. There are some things underneath that give this a little bit more of a kind of almost a almost an almond butter type note to it. So, but those are the dominant components. Let's look at this dry leaf, and looking at it, you will see that these rolled or balled leaves are likely to be, well, I mean, I get a range. Like this looks like in some cases more than one leaf balled or rolled, but in several other cases individual leaves that are balled. What else do we have? We got a light, got a fairly light greenish gray type color here, moving a little bit towards a tinge of brown, indicating the some of the roasting that has taken place, that has browned these leaves some. You still see some of the stem there, and glancing here and there, you see some very glossy components, but then you also see a little bit of less piece of, well, I would say, yeah, generally a light sheen coming or present on a lot of these leaves. Okay, so what I want to do now is return these to the package, and then I'll be able to talk a little bit more about move on to the other aspects of the tea. There we go. So that was not gonna fold very well, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to this, and I'm going to angle my lid over the side so I'm ready to pour. My leaves have unfurled quite a bit already, so they should have released plenty of tea to talk about here when we get to our liquor. Looks good. Okay. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and give this liquor a smell and talk about it for just a few minutes. One more time. There is a definite sweetness there, and it's not a it's, how should I say? There's a sweet sour element. There's something here that's almost like a ketchup that has the vinegar there. It has a bit of the sweetness of a tomato in it as well. This one, again, this is going to sound off-putting. It's going to sound odd. But there is something that's just a little bit of a light, gentle type of vinegar tartness to this. Think of tomato ketchup combined with the sweet and tartness of the tomato. So that's not at all to say this is a negative aspect. The roasting component, though, is a lot lighter. I mean, I'm not getting a lot of strong toasted notes here, at least so far. Again, there's something kind of sweet sour. It's not necessarily apricot, peach. Some of those common stone fruit known for some other teas. This one not necessarily present with this. Okay, there is something definitely sweet sour about this. Okay, pulling out some of these leaves. Most of these leaves are nearly intact, and I'm kind of looking for also, I mean, you are getting some pretty large leaves, over 2 inches or so in length. Very supple, fairly delicate, tearing fairly easily as well. Let me pull out, see if I can find some kind of sets or pairs that are still, for example, here's a pair or set as well. Mostly unfurled. Looking at the edges or the stems here, they're cut pretty cleanly, pretty smoothly, indicating that this was a machine process or a scissors cut type of cutting action rather than a hand pluck that gives a more ragged type of tear to it. Okay. Leaves do not show a lot of, they actually don't show a lot of oxidation. I mean, you get a little of a lighter, a little bit of a rust type of component along some of the edges, and that's just sections of the edges of these leaves. Most of them look like the color is pretty even across the leaf. and so it indicates that that comes from a toasting aspect contributed to that color there. So there's the heat aspect, the firing aspect contributed to the color here. Now, moving on, I do want to talk about my liquor. Let's focus on that for the moment. First off, a nice light, a nice honey color, kind of a golden brownish type color there. Good clarity, I would say. You look down through and see through it pretty clearly as well. Now, in the liquor, this is moving more towards standard type of, or more familiar type of smells. There's a little bit of again, some of that English laurel, that kind of woody, shrubby, light flower type scent coming out. Underneath that, I got a little bit of kind of a sweet corn, fresh sweet corn type of, again, that kind of sweetness there. Focus on the sweetness there, more so than the corn. Okay, let's give it a taste now. Give it another shot here. Now, first off, I want to talk a little bit about the body. It has a gentle, smooth type of texture to it, not excessively astringent, actually a very light astringency. It's not harsh. It's got a little bit, the aftertaste moves towards a little bit of a kind of a light powdery feel on the mouth and, or I should say on the tongue and sides of the cheeks, insides of the cheeks there. Aftertaste builds up a little bit of that, still a little a light sweetness there, balancing with a light, a very light type of bitterness there. But again, that they're in balance, so it's not offsetting or off-putting. The actual tastes or aromas that I'm getting some kind of, again, there's a bit more of the woodsy type, combined that with in the background of a light type of caramel type component there. Some of the elements that I also find familiar with some Dongding styles. There's a bit of that, again, a little bit of a woodsy type note, which probably comes or is contributed to with the heat that's coming there, the firing. So it has a bit of a there's a bit of a wood component. There's a bit of a dried wood type of think of a dried not necessarily oak, maybe a pine, maybe a sweet gum, some of those dried firewood type notes there. So you combine that with a little bit of the bitterness with that balances with that sweetness that builds up towards the back, so that in the aftertaste, yes, I'm still getting some sweetness, still continuing to build up there. And I would classify that almost a little bit of that bitterness combined with, or that stringency, that astringent feel combined with, say, a honey roasted peanut in there. There's the nutty, the sweet combined in that aftertaste that I'm detecting as well. Looking at this tea as a whole, it has some interesting components. It has lots of characteristics there that give it a lot of things to talk about, to look at. When you combine them, I don't necessarily find a lot that really makes this tea outstanding. It's not the most noteworthy as far as texture or aftertaste or flavors but combined by itself, it makes a nice daily drinking kind of tea. So I would give this tea. I'll give this tea an 86. It's got some nice components to it. Again, nothing that outstanding though, but still a nice, enjoyable daily drink tea. Something that could, I haven't tried this, but it could do well as a cold brew as well. So come back to Walker Tea Review to find your daily teas, your celebration teas, lots of different kinds for all occasions.